Now, let me go to the third aspect of my lecture, that is, how do we look at spirituality, or what I am keen to use the word spiritual experience rather than spirituality as an abstract noun, because my focus at this point is to deal with the nature of experience. And I think spiritual experience is a very important form of experience, which is, I think, part of the intuitive experience. Spiritual experience is a kind of intuitive experience. That is what I want to plead. Somehow, spirituality is seen as a word not to be brought into the fold of serious philosophical debate and discussion, primarily because we have recognized philosophical exercise as an exercise of conceptual analysis and reasoning. So, rational deliberation on concepts, on ideas, on narratives linking with these concepts is all we claim philosophy does. So, anything outside the purview of these two or three fundamental ways of philosophizing, we consider them not to be recognized as a part of philosophizing. That is why there has been a big debate whether philosophy in India or Indian tradition should be called as Darsana or Anviksiki. And this debate comes primarily because Darsana is seen as deeply spiritual in nature. Somehow the word Darsana seems to strongly recognize the presence of this act of spiritual experience, like seeing through. Darshan, to see through, is not about mere perceptual experience. What I call alaukik pratyaksha has close resonance in what darsana is all about. So darsana is not about merely reasoning or conceptual analyzing an idea, but about understanding, about seeing through these concepts and ideas, going beyond. And this going beyond is somehow equated with the word spirituality. And many are keen to replace this word darsana with anviksiki. The term anviksiki is also equally old. It is as old as Kautilya's Arthashastra. The record says that Kautilya was the first one who used it in Arthashastra, but according to Ramakrishna Bhattacharya, the word Anviksiki was also found in Sankhya, in Nyaya, and also in Lokayat. So it is a very old term which is largely engaged with, or that represents, this word represents what is called analysis or reasoning. Even practical rationality is what Anviksiki represents. So many philosophers in India, including Professor Dayakrishna, wanted Anviksiki to be the word to represent philosophy in Sanskrit term, Sanskrit language. That somehow this word darsana is seen to be towards spirituality and religious studies, and Anviksiki is considered to be more secular and rational in understanding. So this is a debate that have remained, but this debate is largely built on whether to include spirituality or not within the discourse of philosophy. Let me also submit that it was Swami Vivekananda who brought in the role of spirituality in philosophizing and considered that spirituality or spiritual experience is a significant method in philosophical discourses. Now, my submission here is spirituality is not always to be linked with religion. In fact, in India we do not have any religion in the way we have Islam, we have Zoroastrianism, we have Christianity in other parts of the world, or the Jewish religion in other parts of the world. So the religion is a particularly as institution, a very Judaic in nature. Whereas this debate has been very alive that in India there is no religion in that sense. But let me not go into that. The significant point for me here is that spirituality is not necessarily religious. So the word spiritual experience must not be only linked with religious form of experiences. Let me go little away for a while from this history of ideas and try to understand what this spirituality is all about. My reading is that in the history of ideas, somehow spirit and matter has been seen as two ontological reality. I'm talking of the Western philosophical traditions. That spirit and matter are supposed to be two conceptually distinct ontological category. And this has been brought in even by Descartes when he talked of two fundamental substances, mind and body. Mind takes place over spirit because the word spirit is somehow linked with the religious, with theology. So you want to take philosophy out of theology and you start coining new terms. You start using mind rather than spirit. And subsequently we know that the word mind is even replaced by consciousness. And we also further know that this consciousness in some of the phenomenological tradition does not find any substantive characteristics. That is what Jean-Paul Sartre said, that this consciousness is catalytic and it does not have a substantival nature. So there has been a long history of ideas on what is this to be called that is not matter. So that which is not matter, you either call them as spirit, you call them as mind, or you call them as consciousness, but still it remains that it is non-material. Further, we know that in the 20th century cognitive science, these debates and discourses, even the mind is considered as material. Mind is also considered as material, and that reduces the entire discourse of ontology into matter. So this is yet again another debate. Why I brought in this from the history of ideas is to submit before you that this concept, even though we are talking about spirituality, recognizing, not recognizing, has a long history. Why we do not want to recognize or why we want to recognize. Now my submission is, and this is away from the history of ideas, I want to draw your attention to the fact that matter is that which is extended, or the matter which Descartes calls as body is extended, it is spatial. It occupies a space and it can be perceived through sense perceptual experience. Through sense perception, we can experience that which is spatial, which is bodily. But what about that which is not bodily, which does not occupy a space, which Descartes called mind, or which Husserl and Sartre may call consciousness? I am not interested to give a name to that at the moment. For me, it is a new name you give to the word spirit, which is non-material. Now, my submission before you is that you see a cup, this glass of water in front of me, or you see me wearing the spectacle. This is an object which occupies a space. In this case, it is held by me. I am wearing this spectacle, so you can see. And this spect is very different from another spect which is worn by somebody. So that which occupies space, this is my submission, that which occupies a space, it is very difficult to aggregate and unify. You may bring them for addition, for aggregation at the most, but how do you unify them? You unify matter through spirit. This is what even Karl Marx have done, quality and quantity. The quantities get unified through quality. So what is spatial is distinct, and they are perceived as distinct, and it is difficult to unify them. But you can unify them only through that which is non-spatial, non-bodily, yet a substance. You call it mind or spirit or soul or consciousness. You might give different strata of names for each one of them. That is fine. But the point that I want to make is that that which is non-spatial, non-bodily, are easier to unify, yet difficult to display. In the case of music that I gave the example, you listen to Raga Bhageswari, you are listening to Veena Sahasrabuddhe's song, Raga. So you are listening to the sound. It doesn't have a space. It is non-bodily. The only body you see is the what you call mobile phone through which you are listening to it, or the music system, or the computer through which you are listening to the music. But the music, that sound, is not spatial. It is temporal, no doubt, but it is not spatial. So it is easy for you to unify. My submission is that which is non-spatial has a tendency to unify, whereas that which is spatial is hard to unify. Now, intuitive experience, or any form of experience which is transcendental in nature, is about unifying that which is non-bodily. So within that, spirituality or spiritual experience is one form of intuitive experience which unifies. Let me not go to the religion. Some of you may not be interested. But let me say, when Tagore says that he is not interested in nationalism, narrow boundaries of nationalism, he wants to talk of Vishwa, of humanity, of the whole world, of whole mankind. Not to be confined that I am an Indian or I am this or that. So looking at every human being as one is built on the very spirit of unification. It is an experiential, intuitively experienced feeling that you try to see the fellow being next to you, irrespective of which nationality that person is from, which religion that person belongs to, which gender that person belongs to. And you try to see that I and the other person have so much of commonalities, oneness. That is what Advaita is all about. And the spirit of Advaita, which comes in Rabindranath Tagore, in his idea of humanism, is bereft of any religion. We know that his idea of religion is religion of man. It is not a religion, institutionally built up religion, no. So when the humanity becomes a religion, if you want to use it, beyond caste, beyond race, beyond language. Let me put another example from Swami Vivekananda. And this is a very interesting episode. When he went to Parliament of Religion in Chicago, and then he went around Europe and came back to India. And by the time he had already built one math in Belur, if I am not mistaken. And there were many monks. This was a fraternity of monks. They have gathered themselves under the leadership of then late Ramakrishna Paramhamsa. So one of his elder monk asked Swamiji, and they addressed Vivekananda as Noren, that is Narendranath was his name. And the question was, Noren, you had been going all around. Have you seen God? And maybe this was a very, in the lighter vein, the question was asked. The question was asked in a very, perhaps, a lighter vein. The answer was very interesting. Unlike his guru have said to him, that when Vivekananda went to Ramakrishna and asked, have you seen God? And his answer was, yes, I have seen God. And Vivekananda answers his Guru Bhai, saying that I don't know whether I have seen God or not. I don't even know whether there is God or not. But one thing I am sure is that through this travel across the world, my heart has widened up. My heart has widened up so much for all human beings in this world. I think this is what spirituality is. This is what spiritual experience is. Now it is intangible. This experience is about a content that is intangible, unlike normal perception, where you see or you touch, that you experience, you sense experience something which is tangible. I would say the sound is little above the normal form of experience, normal form of sense experience. You have sense experience of touch, you have sense experience of taste, you have sense experience of smell, but the sense experience of sound seems to be, interestingly, a little above the normal sense experience of vision and touch. Why I say this is, look at the word Om, the sound, in the classical Indian tradition is very significantly considered. Look at the story in Christian myth of Abraham and Isaac. When Abraham is being constantly told by God to sacrifice his son. It is in the old biblical narrative. Now, his communication with God is through sound, not through reasoning, not through vision. He did not see. It is the sound that is being brought in. Anyway, I do not wish to go. You can say in Gita the vision is important. But I will not go further on to this debate because there can be counterpoints and points. But nonetheless, the intuitive experience, the point for my submission to you is the intuitive experience is a form of experience which, though built on the sense perception, and mind you, sense perception is also a form of experience. So the intuitive experience as a form of experience is higher in nature than the sense perceptual experience. And to this I want to submit that spiritual experience is to recognize the oneness or the unity of the humankind. And if that is something which we feel, then why not take it seriously as a form of philosophical exercise? Why should we throw it away saying that it cannot be reasoned or it cannot be perceived? So the experience as a form of first person feeling, and when I use the word feeling, the domain of the aesthetics also come in. So this feeling which strikes us to the core when we intuitively experience something, that experience must be recognized as a philosophical method. And if you recognize this, then the horizon of what constitutes philosophy will be widened. And philosophy will not remain cocooned to the exercise of conceptual analysis and reasoning alone, but also in the exercise of storytelling, in the exercise of singing, in the exercise of dancing, in the exercise of what you call the actions that we do. The philosophizing become part of it. So the experiencing of the intuitive kind is a very significant way through which our everyday way of doing and experiencing are taken into account, but somewhere they are taken above at a transcendental level, and some form of feeling gets over us with the most immediate form of capturing what Husserl called capturing the essence of the being or the truth. And with this, I would like to submit that spiritual experience as a form of intuitive experience is a very, very significant method which tries to unify what is called the intangible. And we must accept that the domain of the intangible is fairly large in philosophical discourse, because we know that the world of the tangible are being taken care of by many other disciplines. Philosophy looks into the world of the intangible. And unless we recognize the intuitive experience as a method of inquiry in philosophy, a method of philosophizing, then we may not be able to capture this domain of the intangible, which is so vast, far bigger than the domain of the material world, the domain of the empirical. Thank you very much.